yes, guys, we are jumping right in to 6 fantasy football players who are bounce back candidates from otherwise disappointing 2024 seasons. Going to take you through the list, and then we're going to hop into a mock draft at the end of the video, because a lot of times guys who disappointed last year are values for this year. I'm going to show you how to capitalize on that value when you're building your team. It's kind of the name of the game. All right, so number 1 is Rashee Rice. Last year, before injury, Rashee Rice was contending and challenging for the wide receiver 1 overall. Now, it was only 3 games, okay, but he was averaging over 21 fantasy points per game. He was the wide receiver 2 in that span. He had 95 receiving yards per game and 9+ targets per game. 9+ targets. That's insane. If a wide receiver historically is hitting 8 or 9 targets, upper end of 8 targets approaching 9, they are most likely going to finish the season as a top 15 wide receiver in PPR. He was over 9, approaching 10. Okay. Now, the last 9 games he's played, so this extends even beyond, right, into 2 seasons ago, the end of 2 seasons ago. This extends beyond his hot start to 2024. The last 9 games he's played, he's been a wide receiver 1, a top 12 wide receiver in 44% of those games. He's been a wide receiver 2 in 88% of those games. So that really means that in 1 game out of the last 9, okay, he was in that flex range or worse, and that was week 16 of 2023. He only scored, quote, only 11.7 points. And in my book, honestly, if you're getting double digits, you're not killing the roster, okay? Starting in week 12, right, of 2023, again, 9 games ago, 24.7 points, then a bit down into wide receiver range, 14.4, then 20.2, 24.1, then that crappy 11.7 game, if you will, and then the last game of the season in 2023, 17.7 points. Picked right back up for the first 3 weeks of 2024 before the injury, 17.3, 18.5, and then 29.1 points in week 3. Insane, all right? There's also more, though, here. So he got injured last year, missed the whole season, but he did avoid the major ACL injury, guys. It was only an LCL injury. I say only, okay? Obviously, that's a bit funny, but he did not just completely blow up his knee. He's already a full participant at Chiefs OTAs, and that looming suspension that everybody was worried about last year that suppresses ADP is actually not existing anymore. He probably won't get suspended. It's definitely looking likely he doesn't, okay? All that being said, wide receiver 21, where he's going in drafts, is an absolute value for Rashee Rice. And quite honestly, he is a dark horse, a true, actual dark horse. Not a guy like A.J. Brown who's being drafted in the top 10, but a real dark horse to finish wide receiver 1 overall, okay? If you're a betting man, I mean, that's a pretty good bet. High odds, but good payoff potentially. All right, I digress. So the next player we need to discuss here, guys, as a bounce back candidate is Christian McCaffrey. Now, some of you just turned the episode off, and that's totally fine. Others who are interested in winning their fantasy leagues will hear me out on this one, okay? So Christian McCaffrey, his fantasy career finishes, excluding his rookie year, all right? So going all the way back to 2018, RB1. 2019, RB1. 2020, he was injured. 2021, he was injured. 2022, RB2. 2023, RB1. And then obviously last year he was injured. So quite literally, all right, since his rookie season, he's played 7 seasons. In 4 of them, he has been RB1 or RB2. And the other 3, he has been injured. Pretty crazy. Honestly, pretty crazy. I will say, this season, the 49ers didn't really draft anybody of note. I know they have a new rookie, but again, that's a pretty crowded backfield of just backups, if you will, behind McCaffrey. And we're hearing out of camp that he is fully healthy, all right? Last year, 4.0 plus yards per attempt McCaffrey averaged, and because of that, I just don't think he's washed yet. So until I hear that, he's not healthy or he's really resting a lot, I know he gets those veteran rest days, I'm not going to be concerned. I'm just not going to be concerned. Does it mean I'm drafting him 101? Absolutely not, but the risk of one of these injured seasons is baked into, his late first round cost, okay? Now, you might ask yourself, well, Joe, I know that you're a bit lower on Derrick Henry. I know you're a bit lower on Saquon Barkley, right? For some reasons such as age, such as total touches last year, career touches, things like that. Why are you not low and or fading Christian McCaffrey? Well, the answer is because of McCaffrey, Henry, and Saquon, only one of them is in the conversation of greatest PPR running back of all time, right? And that is Christian McCaffrey. It's just a bit of a different gravy, if you will. So if he falls to you in drafts in the back half of the first, even the second round, I mean, you really can't hesitate, guys. It's kind of similar to Devon Etienne last year, right? Hear me out on this. He's a very risky player. Ton of injury risk, right? We thought at this point last year. But if you construct your roster in drafts in a way where you minimize that risk, right? So maybe you go RB, RB. Maybe you go RB, wide receiver, RB again, right? You draft another early RB. So even if McCaffrey or last year Etienne has a season-ending injury, God forbid, you still have your, quote, RB1. They might be a low-end RB1. They might be a top 15 running back, but you still have someone serviceable as an RB1. By that point, you've been insulating your roster through waivers throughout the season. You have a serviceable RB2, and you move on, okay? That's how you minimize the risk, right? All right. Next up, okay? Travis Etienne is coming in at number 3. Before we get into Etienne, though, I could go on about McCaffrey being the greatest fantasy running back of all time, right? In the conversation with LaDainian Tomlinson, Marshall Faulk, Priest Holmes. I posted this thread, guys, on X. Take a look at it if you're interested, at NOEXPERTFF. Okay, back to why we're here. So, Travis Etienne, yes, guys, is the third player who is a bounce-back candidate after a very, very weak 2024. A lot of people forget just who Etienne is, okay? One of the greatest college running backs ever. That's a fact. Probably the best ACC running back of all time, and had one of the best careers of any college running back ever. Hence his first round draft capital, okay? He is still in the prime fantasy football age window for running backs, 24 to 27. I believe he's 26 or 25, right? And just 1 year ago, okay, he's coming off a season where he contended for RB1 overall. He was the second best RB in PPR behind only McCaffrey. Disappointed last year, right? Because the offensive scheme was terrible. I truly believe Doug Peterson did not like Etienne, or just the style of offense that Peterson wanted to run favored Bigsby. It favored a mixture of backs, okay? The offensive scheme was terrible. He had the worst offensive line in the NFL. The Jaguars did, which it's getting a little better, but it's not that much better. A little better, though, okay? And Trevor Lawrence was injured last year, all right? So, I see Etienne with Liam Cohen as the new offensive coordinator in Jacksonville. I see Etienne as playing the Bucky Irving role, okay, from last year. And that role, if you will, weeks 10 through 18, that was when Bucky was playing his, quote, full allotment of snaps, which actually was only 50% of snaps. So when people say, Bashal Tutin or, Tank Bigsby's in this backfield as well, he's not going to get all the work. Etienne, he doesn't need it, okay? Let's just say Etienne were to get 50% of snaps in the same role that Bucky Irving had in the same offensive scheme that's coming to Jacksonville. Last year, Irving, in that role, weeks 10 to 18, 18.3 fantasy points per game. That was top 6 at the position, and 19-plus opportunities per game. Again, only 50% of snaps. When you look at the running backs in Jacksonville, you have Etienne, you have Tank Bigsby, and as I said, the rookie out of Tech, Tutin, okay? Only one of them has a three-down skill set. Bigsby's more of a goal line guy, more of a hammer, really bad in the pass game, all right? And Tutin is more of a third down back and a speed guy around the edge, and he's very good at it. Both those players are good at their jobs, but Etienne can really do it all. He has a three-down skill set. We saw it in 2023 in the NFL. He's more proven than either of those guys on the roster. And what's more is that Cohen is already talking Etienne up as the starter in Jacksonville. He loves this guy, okay? Once again, I'll remind you, 1 year ago, he was coming off 16.8 fantasy points per game and the RB2 overall, behind only McCaffrey, still in his prime. His RB35 ADP, guys, is trash. You could have got burned by him last year. You could have got burned by him his rookie year. You could have pledged to literally never draft Etienne again. You can draft him as your RB4 at 100th overall in drafts. Crazy. You don't even have to start him. You literally don't have to rely on him at all. All right. Number 4 is Marvin Harrison Jr., okay? So last year, going at the end of the first round, high second round, and that was a bad draft pick. I was very in on Marvin, and I was wrong. But this year there's hope, right? When we look at the rookie season for Marvin, okay, it actually wasn't that bad. It's bad for the cost where we drafted him. Obviously, you want more than what we got. But if Marvin went in like the 6th, 7th, 8th round, kind of where Roma Dunze was going, we'd be pretty happy. He ran 523 routes. That's 13th most amongst all wide receivers. So already approaching wide receiver 1 category there. He had 116 targets. It's 19th most, top 20 amongst wide receivers. And his target share was 23%. Like, that's very good utilization. Okay? The only problem we saw with Marvin last year was that him and Kyler were not on the same page. 71% of his targets were catchable. Now, if you don't know, it kind of sounds good. It's not. 3rd worst amongst all wide receivers with 80 plus targets last year. So this begs the question, is it a QB issue? Potentially. I do think last year it might be an issue between both the players, both Kyler Murray and Marvin Harrison. You can't just put all the blame on Kyler. Obviously, the two of them have to sync up, right? When we look at the season last year for Marvin, wide receiver 1 in only 12% of games, 62% of games he was a flex wide receiver 3 or worse, okay? And in a quarter of those, 25% wide receiver 2. So, again, not what you want for your end of the first, beginning of the second round pick. But like I said, if, he was drafted where Brian Thomas was drafted, right? If those two switched ADPs, we'd be super happy with Brian Thomas and we'd be fine with Marvin and in on him right now. So you have to take the ADP from last year and throw it out the window and be a goldfish like Ted Lasso says and just have a short memory, okay? If you don't know what I'm talking about, just get out from under your rock, dude, okay? All right. Now, on the Kyler Murray note, I do think they'll be on the same page. Before Marvin came in, right, before Trey McBride was a thing in this offense, Murray supported Marquise Brown. Every time Marquise Brown, this sounds silly, but every time he was healthy on the Cardinals, and Murray was healthy and Brown was healthy, right, Marquise Brown was a top 12 wide receiver. Fact. You can look it up. He was. And honestly, he was even top 6. Those two had a very good chemistry. If we see something like that with Marvin Harrison and Kyler, I mean, really, we talked about dark horses for wide receiver 1 at the position. He could be one. He really, really could be. Okay? By the way, Trey McBride is cooking as we speak, so clearly Kyler is still capable of supporting pass catchers. So we just need to show a little bit of patience here. And as you guys know, second years for wide receivers is when they break out historically, okay? Number 5 on the list is Sam LaPorta. I hated LaPorta and his ADP last year. Or should I say I hated LaPorta's ADP, not him and his ADP. He's a fine guy, I'm sure, but I did not like where he was going in drafts. In the second round, it was out of control. But now, okay, he's appropriately priced in drafts, tight end 5. He started last year very bad. A lot of people dropped him, but in the final 10 games, he had 6+ targets in 9 of them. He averaged 13.2 fantasy points per game. So I'm looking to take a guy like LaPorta, okay, outside of the top 50 picks in drafts, 5th round, okay, instead of like George Kittle in the late 3rd or 4th, or instead of TJ Hawkinson in the 4th. I'm waiting. LaPorta really is the sweet spot for tight ends. And finally, the last guy on the list. Now, this is the 6th player in a row where we got to have a short memory here, but it is CJ Stroud. One of the best rookie QB fantasy seasons we've seen, honestly, 2 years ago. But then last year in 2024, he disappointed. QB 18 finish. The QB 6 or 7 ADP where he was going last year was out of control. He was basically the QB version of LaPorta, and look at them both making the list of guys I'm targeting this year. That is how you get good at fantasy. Short memory, goldfish memory, shortest memory of any animal in the animal kingdom, okay? Now, in 2025, Slowick is out, who was the old offensive coordinator. He was horrible. I'm talking awful. It was just a Joe Mixon simulator when you had Nico Collins, Stephon Diggs, Tank Dell, and CJ Stroud. And we just gave 30 touches a game to Joe Mixon. It was crazy. So anyway, Nick Caley's in as the OC. He should be better. They drafted rookies Higgins and Noel, okay? 2 monster wide receivers. 2 monster wide receivers. They traded for Christian Kirk, who kind of is going to play that Stephon Diggs role, which I love. Higgins and Noel will kind of play that Tank Dell role, right? He's still on the team, but who knows? And again, Nico Collins is fully healthy. So there's a lot to look forward to here, guys, for CJ Stroud and the Texans. All right. What I want to do now is a quick mock draft. We're going to go 1 QB, 2 running back, 2 wide receiver, 1 tight end, and 2 flexes. We do have 5 bench spots, but who knows if we'll fill them all. And let's begin. We're going to do a random draft spot. It's going to be 12 teams, and let's assume that it's PPR, okay? So I'll start the draft up. Let's see what spot we get. We got 5th overall, so 101 is Gibbs, which is funny. Barkley, Jefferson, Chase, and then we are on the clock, okay? Very obvious pick for me. This is the player I would take 101 or 102 overall, right next to Jamar Chase. It is Bijan Robinson. I think he's the undisputed running back 1 in fantasy football. I'm going to go ahead and select Bijan Robinson. Why do I think he's the undisputed running back 1 in fantasy football? Good question, fellow viewer. When we look at the other running backs in fantasy football this year, we have Saquon Barkley, who led the position in touches last year. Historically, the last 15 guys who did that, only 1 of them or 2 of them have even finished top 12 of the position the following year. All right? He is past the prime window for age for running back fantasy production. Saquon Barkley is. He's older than 27. And I just think he's going to come back down to earth just a little bit. Tush push didn't get banned. I just can't be undisputed RB1 for Barkley. We look at Gibbs, the other guy kind of in contention there. David Montgomery still exists, which I am not a guy who says that all the time. In fact, I told you last year he has RB1 ceiling. He finished PPR RB1. I love Gibbs. Gibbs is my RB2, locked in all day. But I am just looking for a guy who I know is going to get like 25 touches a game, opportunities a game, if you will. And that's Bijan. And also to close the season last year, Bijan was the best running back. Okay, so I'm not even going to bring up Derrick Henry. And then the only other guy would be Ashton Genty, who I'm just going to take a year or 2 of experience over Genty. But again, love Genty. Christian McCaffrey, guys, a guy who was on our list today, goes at the 207. We're in the 208 here. So we could have started with Bijan and McCaffrey. Pretty crazy, and that's exactly what I'm talking about. So team 6, okay? 6th overall, 1 pick after me, took CeeDee Lamb and then Christian McCaffrey. That team arguably has the best receiver and the best running back right now. Pretty crazy. That's the type of thing a bad season last year will get you. Looking at our draft board here, Bucky Irving, okay, is on the board. Look at the running backs first. Josh Jacobs, JT, Kyron Williams, Chase Brown, Breece Hall, James Cook. A lot of those guys have the same ceiling and floor for me. No one's standing out, okay? We'll look at QBs. Obviously, Lamar's on the board. Josh Allen went 2 picks before us. Jaden Daniels, Jalen Hurts. Probably not in the QB territory here. Too early for tight end, in my opinion. Trey McBride's still on the board. George Kittle. Bowers went at the 202. So it's looking like wide receiver. Let's see, before we even look, what we're looking for is a wide receiver who is in a clear tier above the other guys who might come back to us in the 3rd. And I see one right away. So the number 1 wide receiver left right now is Ladd McConkey. Then we have JSN, Tyreek Hill, T. Higgins, Garrett Wilson, Terry McLaurin. And yes, guys, Ladd McConkey is going to be our wide receiver 1. Absolutely love Ladd. Guy who's going to see 9, 10, at least 8 targets a game. And we talked about that at the beginning of the show here. Really is indicative of a true wide receiver 1. So Ladd is our wide receiver 1. We have Bijan and Ladd through 2. All right. Back to us on the clock here at 305. Lamar goes right before us. Before that, it was Hill, Jonathan Taylor, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Jaden Daniels at the 212. So definitely some interesting picks. Let's take a look at tight ends. George Kittle is on the board. TJ Hawkinson, Sam LaPorta still there. Why would I take Kittle now when LaPorta is going to be available at 54 overall, for example? I'm not going to do it. All right, we'll look at running backs. Any guys who are standing out to me as clear tier above the rest? Kind of. I do have Chase Brown here above all these guys. So on the board, we have Kyron, Chase Brown, Breece Hall, James Cook, Ken Walker. I do have Chase Brown above all of these guys. So at the moment, before we've looked at wide receiver, Chase Brown is coming home. Let's take a look at wide receiver. We have T. Higgins, who could be nice for this build with a reliable 1 like Ladd McConkey, Garrett Wilson, Terry McLaurin, Marvin Harrison, Mike Evans. A lot of these guys could go either way, okay? So Rashee Rice at 43 overall speaking to me. I'm going to go ahead and grab Chase Brown, okay? So we have Bijan, Ladd McConkey, and Chase Brown. We're probably good on running back here. And let's see who comes back to us in the 4th round. We are monitoring the wide receivers available. Rashee Rice still on the board. And as I say that, he goes off the board at the 405 before DJ Moore and before Davante Adams, who are ranked ahead of him in ADP. Pretty crazy. So typically, Rashee Rice would be available right here. He'd be our selection just based on the theme of today's episode. But Davante Adams, DJ Moore, Cortland Sutton still available. Moore and Sutton I prefer over Adams. In fact, I have both those guys inside my top 12 wide receivers, and they're available for us in the 4th round. So at the moment, they're looking very good. Let's take a look at QB. Any guys popping off the page at me? Not really, okay? Mahomes would be the guy we take. I do have him in a tier above. Baker, Goff, Nix, Murray, Herbert. I'm eyeing the Justin Herbert stack here. Later on, I'm going to wait at QB. It's only single QB. Let's take a look at tight end. Okay, we have Sam LaPorta. He's there. So I'm, as you guys know, okay, big fan of LaPorta. He's a theme of our episode today. So we have LaPorta. His ADP is 54. We can pray he makes it back to us. We'd be at like 53, our next pick. Only one team has a tight end. Or we have DJ Moore, Cortland Sutton on the board. Okay, so it's Moore, Sutton, or LaPorta. There's a chance that Moore or Sutton makes it back to us. I think that chance is a bit higher than LaPorta. And guess what? If the receivers don't make it, right, I'm fine with Metcalf as our wide receiver 2, for example. All right, so let's take LaPorta. It's a bit early, but I just want to lock in, okay, that tight end 1. I think having that reliable tight end 1 is so important. So DJ Moore, Devontae Adams, Cortland Sutton, and of course, DK Metcalf go off the board right there, guys. So let's look at the receivers available. I have a feeling a lot of them will be in the same category for us, and that is the truth. We have Zay Flowers, Devonta Smith, Chris Olave, Xavier Worthy, Jalen Waddle, George Pickens. I'm not crazy, okay, about any of those guys. Lo and behold, though, Patrick Mahomes is still on the board. It would be a little early to take him, but I'm going to take him. I'll tell you why. Because now we have tight end 1 locked in. We have QB 1 locked in. Our RBs are done. We're a little weak at wide receiver, but we do have a wide receiver 1 in Ladd McConkey in PPR. And now what we do is we just hammer wide receiver to end this draft right here. I will look at the running backs just so I can tell you guys what I'm thinking about them in case you want to draft them. We have Aaron Jones, RJ Harvey, Tyrone Tracy. Very typical dead zone guys. I do think Harvey and Tracy have a path to 18 touches a game to start the season, which is a very important number for RB1, for example. But Quinshon Judkins is a name I like a lot. DeAndre Swift, I think, is very slept on. So, honestly, there's some good value at the running back position here, but we are going to be picking a wide receiver. So, on the board for that pick at wide receiver, Teteroa McMillan, Travis Hunter, Roma Dunze, Khalil Shakir, Calvin Ridley. And it's probably going to be McMillan or Hunter. Just go for the upside right now. We have a very secure wide receiver 1, and we're just going to continue to grab these wide receivers. So let's just shoot for pure upside. We'll take Teteroa McMillan. I really like what I saw out of Bryce Young to end last season, guys. He's making guys like Jalen Coker look amazing, all right? Who's a good player, but I think McMillan is twice as good as him, to say the least, all right? We have McMillan at the wide receiver 2, and we're going right back to the wide receiver well here. Khalil Shakir is on the board. He faded a bit to end last season, but, I mean, honestly, very good there in the stretch. Multiple monster games. Week 14 against the Rams, he went crazy. 5 for 106 and a tutty. Calvin Ridley, consistently slept on. I think Cam Ward's going to have a nice year. Brandon Ayuk, a sleeper as well. Jacoby Myers, an absolute monster. I mean, there are good names here, guys, in these later rounds. So don't feel like you need to force a wide receiver in your team. Don't feel like you need to force a Devonta Smith, a Chris Olave, a Zay Flowers in the 5th, when honestly, Cooper Kupp, right? I mean, are we 100% sure Xavier Worthy is that much better than Cooper Kupp? I'm not. He's going 3 rounds later. So I'm all over these late round wide receivers. And I'm kind of leaning to Jacoby Myers or Cooper Kupp. When you look at Myers, guys, to finish last season, he was going nuts. Week 18, 27 points. Week 17, 17. Week 16, 6 points. Double-digit points weeks 12 through 15. I mean, if I read you these targets, guys, 15, 11, 10, 9, 5, 9, 10. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. So, to be honest, guys, I'm taking Myers here over Shakir, over Ridley, over Ayuk, and I'm eyeing up Cooper Kupp coming back to me here. Josh Downs is another name who I love at 103 overall in ADP. We're just going to keep hammering these wide receivers. Give me Kupp. We do. We get Kupp here in the 8th round. So 3 straight receivers for us, McMillan, Myers, Kupp. Mix of upside, mix of PPR, mix of who knows what, all under Ladd McConkey on our roster. So now we'll go back to just looking at value. QB and tight end are done. It's so nice. We don't have to worry about it. Let's check the RBs out. Ramondre Stevenson, Javonte Williams is there, who I think is going to have a nice year. Tyjae Spears. Okay, those are a couple names who I'm very interested in. All right, Javonte and Tajay. We look at Tajay to end last season, you guys. Really took this job over. I mean, really took this job over. So weeks 15 through 17, I'll read you the points and the snaps. 27 points on 56% of snaps. 21 points on 61% of snaps in week 16. And then 13.3 points on 65% of snaps. He is 23 years old. We look at Tony Pollard, 28 years old. Our running backs are looking good, okay? Bijan and Chase Brown. If we had a riskier guy like Etienne, I'd probably go with Williams because I know Javonte is going to get some touches. But right now, we're going to go Tajay. Perfect bench piece. And Justin Herbert, guys, off the board at 906. Pretty awesome pick. Okay, if one of those receivers like a Metcalf or the Moore or Sutton was available in the 5th instead of Mahomes, we would have went Herbert there, and that would have been pretty crazy. So just kind of the luck of the draw. We're just looking at bench pieces now, guys. 4 picks left. And let's just keep hunting for value. Keon Coleman is on the board as a second-year breakout candidate. I'm not even going to look any further. Give me Keon Coleman. The wide receiver room here has a ton of upside. Let's take a look, guys, at the tight end position for our next pick. Always like to get a backup tight end. A lot of people will tell you don't do that. But a guy like Colston Loveland, okay, whose ADP is 127 overall, like, yes, I'm going to put him on my team. With the way rookie tight ends have been going crazy, first one drafted this year inside the top 10 picks, I'm all over that, having a bit of fun. Coming back to us here in the 12th, the running backs are not really speaking my name. J.K. Dobbins, Jerome Ford, Jordan Mason. Dobbins maybe, okay, Dobbins maybe. Look at wide receiver, Marvin Mims, Hollywood Brown, Keenan Allen. Some of these guys aren't on teams. Amari Cooper, Kyle Williams is a nice pick. I'll probably go with J.K. Dobbins. We had a meeting here for Dobbins with the Broncos this week, so who knows, guys, all right? And then our last pick in the draft, not going to go backup QB. That is something you actually don't need, unless, right, you're looking at QB and you're like, let me just add Anthony Richardson, okay? Let me just add Michael Penix, like a guy with super high upside. Really like the Richardson as the example. A Cam Ward maybe who's going to run it a little bit. But, again, we'll just keep going back to the wide receiver well. So many receivers available. I'll just take another rookie here, guys. Kyle Williams shaping up to be the wide receiver 1 in New England with Stephon Diggs' boat shenanigans. And now let's take a look at the roster, the final roster. Pretty happy with it, okay? Bijan Robinson was our first-round pick. Him and Chase Brown are rounding out our RB room. So in my eyes, 2 top 10 running backs. We have Patrick Mahomes, who, top 6 QB, top 8 for sure with QB1 overall in his range of outcomes. Ladd McConkey, who in PPR is a locked-in wide receiver 1. Our wide receiver 2 spot is consisting of a handful of guys. Whoever wants the job can get it. Teteroa McMillan, Keon Coleman, okay, Cooper Kupp, Jacoby Myers. Whoever wants that wide receiver 2 job. Sam LaPorta, who we talked about as a value in today's episode. We scooped him up, just a reliable tight end 1 to start every single week. At the flex, take your pick. As I mentioned, Myers and Kupp, Keon Coleman, Tajay Spears, Colston Loveland, maybe, although I'm probably not flexing the tight end, J.K. Dobbins and Kyle Williams. And again, that was only 13 rounds. Most drafts are 17. We'll have some dart throws. That'll be on another episode for you guys. I hope you enjoyed today. I'll catch you next time. Follow along everywhere. Joe Orico FF on X and at NOEXPERT FF everywhere, guys. We're on TikTok. We're on Instagram. We're on Threads. We're on YouTube, obviously. You're listening to a podcast, potentially. We are on literally everything. We got a team going now. Join the Discord, guys, for my draft rankings, updated daily. Every single player in my top 300 has a player note and a player tag for draft rankings. Join the Discord, link in bio, fellas. And I answer your questions in there, too. Ask me any amount of questions you want about fantasy football all season long.